Good evening. This is the North Andover Board of Health meeting, Thursday, September 22nd, 2022, excuse me. It's 7 p.m. I'm Joe McCarthy, the board chairman. Other board members, actually all board members are here right now. To my right, Dr. Patrick Scanlon, he's the town physician. To my left, Michelle Davis, she's the town Board of Health clerk. To her left is Jennifer Abo-Esse, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. And to her far left, or to her left, is Jennifer Lee Bourdet, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So going forward, it's going to be Jennifer A. and Jennifer Lee, so we'll be able to tell. So all board members are here, as I said. Department members are here right now. Brian LaGrasse, he's the director. Steve Casey, he's the inspector. Carolyn Lamb, she is the town nurse, and I don't know if you can see her way back here, but Tony Wolfenden, she is the administrative assistant. So at that, the meeting is order, and the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I just said a moment ago, we have a new board member as of tonight, and that's Jennifer Lee. And please tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been a North Andover resident for about 10 years now. I have 2 children in the school department, one in middle school, one in elementary school. I've been a nurse since 2005, and I'm excited to be here.
And we're glad that you're here, too.
Thank you.
Okay. Approval of meeting minutes.
We have the meeting minutes from July 28, 2022, and these have been edited and are ready to be approved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Look at me.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, minutes are approved. New business. We'll start with Body Art Establishment. This is Inc. Readable Body Art. The practitioner is Christiana Anjo. Looking at 2 apprenticeships, applications requests for Evelyn Anjo and Elvado Anjo. Brian, you want to comment on that? Or you want me to turn it over to them?
I'm going to turn it over to Steve to give you some background on this. He's been working with the applicant on her variance request.
So just as like a little background, we do permit body art in town. The most well-known, I'd say, versions of it are like piercings, tattooing, microblading, and there's some other less well-known ones like branding and scarification, but no one does that in town at this time. So in our body art regulations, basically we limit trainers who's a licensed practitioner in town to 1 apprentice at a time, just because we want to make sure that the apprentice they're training gets hands-on training, one-on-one experience, and basically really learns everything they need to know to become an independent practitioner in a safe and sanitary manner. So section 10J4 of our body art practitioner, or our body art regulations, notes, as I said, each trainer may have no more than 1 apprentice at any time. So Christiana is looking to basically have 2, which I'm fine with. Throughout the process of getting her permitted, she was super timely with everything. She was really thorough with all her paperwork, and the inspection went basically as well as it could. There was no violations or issues noted. So I wanted to give her a chance to basically talk about what she's looking for, and then we can vote on if you guys are okay with giving her the 2 apprentices. So.
Nice to meet everybody.
Can you stand up at the podium?
This is my first time. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm a resident from Andover for almost 8 years, and I started my career as an esthetician, and I have been in this part of the process to be a body art practitioner. So this is a new chapter to my life, for my career. And we start this project beginning this year, back in March, when I find this space to start my own business. And I work on this place for over 3 years. I learn a lot, but I feel like it's time to move on and start my dream. And I find this suite, and I contact the Board of Health, and I start the whole process to see if it was the zoning. I spoke with, I think it was Patrick.
Paul? Paul Hutchins?
On the beginning. It was right on the beginning, and I start my process with Steve. He was very welcome to how we share experience, because some process from other towns, when you open other studios, I was able to follow up the studios in other town, which are other regulations, and we try like understand the regulations for North Andover and fit on that regulation and follow the regulations. One of the part is like have just one apprentice. So my suite is no more than 200 square feet. It's very small. And this business for me is the dream to be a family business. So this is my daughter. She's a college student, and she's my right hand. She helped me a lot with the paperwork and spelling with Stevie and having the conversation. So English is my second language. So my goal with that business is be a family business. So my husband is also an artist. He's learning, but he needs to doing the process what I have done 3 years ago in other studios. So he's still gonna work on his job, and he's gonna doing like we're gonna alternate dates and hours to be able to give both the same attention. So it's a small suite. I'm not even able to have a lot of people yet, but one day I dream to have like a big studio, and I'm glad to be able to doing this here in North Andover. I'm very appreciate, and this is our project.
But for someone that hasn't spoken before at the podium, it was a very, very good review. Thank you.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
glad that Steve said that there was not an issue. Are there any comments at all? Any questions?
No, I know we've done this before.
Yeah.
So we've set the precedent before.
Yeah, so my, I think we did it like right in the heat of COVID, because we did it virtually, actually, that meeting. But we had given a variance in the past. We capped them out at 5. I don't know if you were only looking for 2 right now. I don't.
Yeah, for now is the only thing I can handle is 2.
Yeah.
And then, like I'm gonna start with them because
Sure.
I already teaching them so much.
Sure.
Like in general, they have to take. They already took like the first few classes they have to take, which is like blood tone pathogenics, the first aid, all those beginnings they already have done back in February, like a certified skin course, right in the beginning. They already have some, but now is the time to follow me, looking myself work, and be on site, and be my shadow, actually.
So one of the things I had talked to Christiana right before the meeting on was similar to the last variance we gave, was basically, and she alluded to it, was just having one apprentice in the studio at a time with her. That way they are still getting the one-on-one hands-on training. It's also a smaller studio, so it might not be feasible to have both of them in there at once, but my general recommendation was to approve the variance for the 2 applicants, or the 2 apprentices, as long as she's basically adhering to the basically one at a time precedent we set, so.
Are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely.
Again, any other questions at all? Before we make a motion to vote, I have a personal question for you. Obviously, I'm a very old man. Is there anything you can do with his face?
So,
No?
It's a loaded question. Loaded question. Yeah.
Okay, let's make a motion. Need a motion here.
I'll make a motion to accept the variance for having 2 apprentices at a time.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no? congratulations, and the best to you.
Thank you so much.
And I'll be one of your first new customers, rest assured.
My pleasure.
Gonna have to restock on the art.
Okay, Northeast Massachusetts Mosquito Control and Wetlands Management District. Kimberly Foss, he's an entomologist. He is here right now to speak about what they do and the problems, if any, that we've had in the past. Obviously, it's been a very dry summer. Some of us may not really know what that means for mosquitoes. I hope it's good news. But now it's a very wet late summer and early fall, and what does this mean? So Kimberly, at that, it's all yours.
So, good evening, I'm Kimberly Voss, the entomologist from the Northeast Massachusetts Mosquito Control District. I'd like to thank everyone for having me here tonight to give a presentation on our policies and operations. Once I finish the presentation, I can take some questions if you have them, and then I'll give an update of what we've done so far this year for you, and then I can discuss the weather implications that the drought and rain has had recently. So integrated pest management is a circular system approach for managing pests. IPM incorporates cultural, biological, chemical control strategies. It's an effective and environmentally sensitive approach to pest management. IPM program use comprehensive information on the life cycles of pests and their interactions with the environment. Our district's integrated mosquito management program is based on accurate mosquito identification, surveillance, and monitoring for efficacy, use of prevention strategies, use of action and treatment thresholds, and use of all suitable control measures. This is accomplished by maintaining mosquito population levels below those causing economically significant illness. If no effective non-pesticide control measures are available, a key IPM principle is that selected pesticides should result in the lowest possible risk to health, property, and the environment. This presentation will discuss the integrated mosquito management techniques that NEMMC uses to minimize the impact of mosquitoes on human health, including education, surveillance, source reduction, habitat manipulation, biological controls, and targeted insecticides. We recently redesigned our website to be more user-friendly to residents. The homepage buttons are focused on services provided to the residents, such as resident ULV spray and property inspection requests. Now, North Andover doesn't allow residents to call in for ULV spraying, but we do, and we would like residents to call in to have property inspections for standing water and things like that. We also have a pesticides page that provides detailed list of the pesticides we use, their labels, and safety data sheets. We have frequently asked questions, providing questions and answers on everything from catch basin larviciding to salt marsh helicopter treatments, which are usually for our salt marshes, and those are on our east side. Protect Yourself tab offers information to residents on how they can prevent mosquito bites and breeding on their property. And then we have a Notify Me, an option for residents to subscribe to topics of interest as they are shared on our website and other social media platforms. And we also have a Facebook page. We still have our municipal toolbox, and the login is located in the top right corner of the screen. Boards of health may sign in for information relevant to them in a mainstream format, helping you find what you're looking for. The website is also mobile device friendly, making it easier for residents to utilize this resource right from their smartphone or tablet. Part of our education and outreach follows the state's messaging on preventing mosquito bites by reducing mosquito breeding around your home and the use of personal protection while outdoors. Encouraging residents to use CDC-approved insect repellent aids in the reduction of both mosquito and tick bites and lessens the risk of getting the illnesses they carry. Also, we encourage residents to wear protective clothing or stay indoors when mosquitoes are most active. We encourage residents to mosquito-proof their home by dumping any standing water that is present for more than 5 days, like regularly cleaning bird baths, clogged gutters, pet dishes, and swimming pools. Make sure all screens are repaired and trash, recycle bins, tarps, and boats are turned upside down so they don't collect water. The diagram shows areas around the home that can fill with water and breed mosquitoes. Even a bottle cap filled with water can produce mosquitoes. Mass General Law, Chapter 252, in conjunction with the Mass Department of Public Health, mosquito control districts may engage in preventative, management, and eradication methods as deemed necessary to the Commonwealth. Residents or boards of health may call us for property and site inspections. If there are wet areas on lawns, unused swimming pools, ditches, or wetlands that have breeding mosquitoes, we can treat using a larvicide. Boards of health can also call us to inspect unsanitary or vacant properties for mosquito breeding. We will also remove abandoned tires upon request. And we have added that to our website too, where we can have a resident actually request to have some tires picked up. Upon completion of a requested property inspection, our field technicians will leave a door knocker notifying the resident we've been there. When the boards of health request this service, we'll provide a detailed email regarding the state of the property, including an inspection assessment. Surveillance is the cornerstone of a quality integrated mosquito management program. Surveillance provides data to support timely and effective control actions to reduce mosquito populations and the risks of mosquito-borne disease. Massachusetts has about 52 species of mosquitoes, and I am experienced in all methods of larval and adult mosquito surveillance and identification. Larval surveillance allows us to identify and treat breeding sites, often eliminating the problem before adult mosquitoes appear. Adult surveillance is the process of understanding the population dynamics and species distribution of mosquitoes in a given area. This is a critical factor to determine how to control mosquitoes and the potential disease risk in a community. Our adult mosquito surveillance season begins the second week of May and continues weekly until the end of September. Each municipality has several different trap types collected each week, usually on Mondays and Tuesdays. Only the female mosquitoes are identified to species. The females are the ones that feed on blood. Specimens will be sent to the public health lab for testing starting June 1st. In the beginning of the season, we will only send bird-biting mosquitoes to determine if West Nile or Triple E is circulating in the bird population. Once a community in Massachusetts gets a positive virus notification, all mosquito control districts start submitting bridge vector mosquitoes. Those are mosquitoes that feed on both mammals and birds, and they transmit viruses from the birds to humans. The public health lab releases positive results on Thursdays by noon. We used to do Fridays, but we moved it up a day so that some of the municipalities we have close their offices early on Friday. So we now deliver those results on Thursdays. Most of the time, unless there's a holiday, where we're closed on Monday, then you still might get a result on a Friday. But it's rare. It's only like 2 times a year.
That works out so much better.
We haven't been able to use it that much either because we haven't had any mosquito issues for a while, so a couple years anyway. In years where virus is extremely active and weather conditions are suitable for response, the Department of Health may extend the surveillance and virus testing season into October. Most of our traps are designed to capture adult female biting mosquitoes. We use 4 kinds of traps. The CDC CO2 light trap uses carbon dioxide octanol, which is an attractant, and light. The carbon dioxide and octanol mimic exhaled breath, and the light attracts them by radiating heat and light frequencies. Mosquitoes are drawn to the attractant, pulled into a mesh container by a fan, and remain trapped until we collect them for identification, and they're still alive. The traps are on a weekly timer and use household AC power to run all season. We're working on using solar right now too, so we're going to be developing, we have one prototype, so we don't need AC power. So we'll be able to use them more mobily for areas that either we have historic sites that we've lost power connections, so the solar will be able to be used. So the CDC CO2 traps are mainly used for virus testing of bridge vectors, which are mosquitoes that can transmit virus from bird to humans. We also use them to monitor when mosquitoes are active in a habitat. They are placed in historic locations to monitor mosquitoes over long periods of time. These same traps are also used as mobile deployed supplementals for virus response and can be used in pesticide efficacy studies. Our gravid traps designed to collect mosquitoes that bite birds. These are the primary vector species in the bird-to-bird West Nile cycle and tested at the beginning of the season. So these traps contain a stinky gravid water that's usually made from hay or grass, and it attracts and lures the Culex species, which are the ones that are primary West Nile vectors, to lay eggs in that pan. And the trap sucks them up and collects them before they get to lay eggs. So they're called gravid mosquitoes. So most of the West Nile virus positive hits that Massachusetts has had this year have been in Culex, pipiens, or restuans, which are primary vectors. One trap is designed to collect mosquito eggs. The ovitrap consists of filter paper and it has stagnant water in it. We use those for Aedes albopictus, which is new to Massachusetts. This mosquito is an invasive urban species that is capable of transmitting endemic and tropical arboviruses to humans. The only place we've had them in Essex County so far has been collected in Manchester. So we haven't had any other collections of albopictus, but they're now endemic to the area, so they're overwintering here because of climate change and stuff. So we're probably going to see a lot more of those in the future years. Oh, where am I here? Okay, so we have supplemental traps are deployed after the first positive West Nile or Triple E detection in any municipality and continually used for every virus notification after July. They're the same CDC traps, but they're freestanding and ready for immediate deployment. We usually set these out on a Sunday or Monday night for Monday, Tuesday collections so we can include them in the current batch of mosquitoes that are sent to the public health lab. We take into consideration when placing them about what kind of virus we're looking for, the mosquito species that are involved, isolations in birds, humans, animals. We look at habitat, topography, and human populations at risk when we place these. They're also used for pre and post monitoring of adulticide efficacy in areas with heavy mosquito complaints to determine what species is on the wing. For equipment security, the resident privacy, we do not disclose the locations of any of our traps to the public. Local boards of health can request this confidential information. Another vital part of our integrated mosquito management is physical control through mosquito habitat mitigation and manipulation. We have specialized low ground pressure wetland excavation, mowing, and earth moving equipment. Every year, the district clears over 20,000 feet of impacted stormwater ditches and 50 culverts. Clearing these either by hand or mechanically keeps stormwater from backing up and creating stagnant areas where mosquitoes can breed. Larger salt marsh restoration projects can dramatically reduce mosquito habitat by providing deeper pools for birds, fish, and ditch restoration provides better drainage for tidal water. So we just did, this spring, we did a large project in Methuen, cleared a big ditch and mowed some phragmites and got a whole stormwater system running. And we have videos of that with using a drone, and it came out really well. So we can do those projects if they're requested by a municipality on their letterhead. So if you have an area that looks like it has problem with drainage, you can contact Caitlin King, our wetlands coordinator, and she can come look at it and kind of figure out what may or may not be done. So we also remove and dispose of tires through petition wetland management products, coordinated cleanups, resident requests, scouting, and participation in household hazardous waste events. We remove about 700 abandoned tires each year. These practices are considered an important part of the district's IPM approach and have become a valuable vector mosquito habitat management tool. Through our invasive plant protocol, we mow large areas of Phragmites, which is a tall, dense, aquatic, fresh brackish water plant that provides breeding habitat for several mosquitoes of species of viral concern. It also provides shelter for large populations of resting adults. Mosquito control efforts may be inhibited by dense strands of Phragmites, either by preventing the spray from aerial larval applications or by being able to access the breeding sites. We ask the community officials petition us for any mosquito habitat mitigation work. So larviciding is our primary chemical approach to mosquito control when habitat mitigation isn't an option. It's more efficient to reduce mosquitoes when they are in water, when they are hatched and flying. The district keeps a database with historic larvicide sites, which includes spring snowmelt areas, woodland pools, agricultural pastures, river floodplains, flooded lawns, freshwater swamps, and salt marshes. Our larviciding begins in March, or as snowmelt allows, to September 30th and beyond if circumstances warrant. Culicida melanura, which is our primary Triple E vector, overwinters larvae, and treatment of crypt habitats can be done through the winter months. So basically, we larvicide year-round. So our field teams go to each site. We dip multiple times for larvae. Some samples are brought back to the lab, and I ID them to species. If there are numerous larvae, we treat with the appropriate larvicides. So we do have like a threshold for that. We have like over 5 larvae per dip in certain sites. If there's predators, like frogs and other things, we'll leave and we don't treat at all. Freshwater spring snowmelt sites and abandoned swimming pools require one treatment for a year. Summer floodwater sites and ditches may require multiple treatments. And all data, including our treatments, are recorded in, we have this field seeker mapping program. So we have a map of your municipality with all the sites in, by acre, and it's a polygon of that site. So basically, this is a salt marsh. So you can see the dipper on the left and the dipper on the right. That's salt marsh, but we've seen somewhere similar in some spring snowmelt situations or ditches that are plugged. So before treatment is the dipper on the left, and after treatment is the dipper on the right. So we can get, you still will have mosquitoes. We can't eradicate them, but we can reduce them to somewhat of a manageable or comfortable level. Our catch basin program is designed to reduce the seasonal risk of West Nile in the urban areas. The Culex mosquitoes are primary vector for West Nile virus. Catch basins like tires and containers are their preferred habitat. There is availability of food for larvae and adults, shelter from predators, and a consistent stagnant water supply in dry, hot years. So each female can lay over 100 eggs in a raft. Each basin can harbor 50 egg rafts at any given time. Peak hatching happens when the water temperature in the basin reaches 70 degrees, so timing is critical. Annual treatments can also have a cumulative effect in reducing total populations into the following year by up to 80% compared to untreated basins. So we usually start treating the areas around Boston first, north of Boston. Boston seems to be is a large urban area. And based on this year, if you look at all the positives, they're out of Suffolk County or larger municipal areas. So we start our catch basin treatments in those municipalities first, followed by the areas around Lawrence. And then everyone kind of gets filled in between. So municipal DPWs can assist the district in efficient treatments of basins by scheduling annual cleanings before the end of May or after August. And a lot of municipalities they don't do them all in one year. They might do a quarter of them, so we do work with DPWs to try to figure that out so we can still come in and do catch basin treatments. And sometimes if it's done earlier or done in part, and you have a West Nile virus event, we can come back and we'll retreat certain areas of interest, those catch basins. So all of our larvicide products are category 4. We primarily use bacterial larvicides containing bacillus strains such as Thuringiensis and Israeliensis, and Sphaericus for control of mosquito larvae in freshwater and clean catch basins. The bacteria are naturally occurring in soil and affect only mosquitoes, black flies, and fungus gnats. All larvicides target specific species at a particular stage of development, in certain habitats at a different time of year. The larvicide products we use are not known to develop resistance in mosquitoes. They are packaged in either a liquid or granular form, and efficacy can be up to 85% or more. These bacterial larvicides are non-toxic to people, pets, or other animals, aquatic life, or other insects, including honeybees. They can be applied safely to standing water without causing harm to food crops or water supplies. For long-term control of mosquito larvae in high organic or polluted water, we use methoprene. Methoprene is an insect growth regulator. By acting like an insect hormone, it interferes with insect growth and development. It can prevent normal development from the immature phase to the adult phase. Methoprene is a very low toxicity to humans and other vertebrates. Our methoprene applications are primarily made to catch basins, swimming pools, and other man-made container habitats. We'll also use cocoa bear, which is a suffocant that we use for melanura in the winter because a lot of our other larvicides won't work, either high acidity, cold temperatures, and just access for the larvae. And cocoa bear only lasts about 5 days or less. And we have to time that really. And try to speed this up a little. And we don't do any residential ULD adulticiding for your town. We only use it when we're doing barrier treatments in certain parks, playgrounds, and schools and stuff. So I can kind of skip that if you want me to. These are our barrier treatments. So we do barrier treatments for your town. Again, they're not used on residential properties, and we can't apply any of these products when the temperature is below 50, or when it's raining, or when wind speeds are 10 miles an hour. The local boards of health can authorize any truck-based ULV or barrier operation. Every year, our products get evaluated for effectiveness and environmental safety. As new products become available, our lineup changes and notifications will be sent out to these new additions. All right. Okay, so on our Board of Health adult side requests, following our phased response to virus protocol, which is new, I don't know if you noticed in our BMP, that changed. We have checklists now. To reduce the risk of West Nile and Triple E and human infections, the district may recommend selective and targeted adulticide applications when virus-infected mosquitoes are discovered. Only the boards of health in our subscribing member communities can request adulticiding and barrier treatments for schools, rec areas, and publicly owned property. Barrier treatments are not required for every town, but is a helpful preventative measure to consider in communities that have high-risk mosquito history and expect lots of outdoor rec during period peak mosquito times. We're trying to get our boards of health to schedule early and prior to the human virus transmission season, so scheduling them late into July and August. We have a school IPM program. The school IPM program is in accordance with the Child and Families Protection Act, which requires a school's IPM plan to list the pesticides that are going to be applied on school grounds or in school grounds. Schools must include mosquito control in their outdoor IPM plans if they intend to request mosquito control services on that property. You can view all the public and private school IPM outdoor plans on the Mass NRC website to check if they're updated. As a reminder, school outdoor IPM plans should be up to date with our current products when considering any treatment on school grounds. It's the responsibility of the school districts to create and maintain their IPM plan for their school. We encourage the boards of health to follow up with the IPM coordinators for the schools in their municipality to ensure they are receiving the proper mosquito control treatments. If the IPM plans don't list the products we use, then we can't treat the property. Every spring, we email our product lineup to the IPM coordinators and the boards of health, and we can assist the addition of the products to the plan. The Mass NRC website also has a help desk available for assistance. Let's skip the adulticide requests. Residents who request exclusion of their property must comply with the legal process to do so. Private property owners may request exclusion from wide area applications of pesticides on their property by the district. If a tenant is requesting the exclusion, the landlord contact information must be included. Exclusions cannot be completed for public property. This procedure excludes the entire property from adulticiding and larviciding if the area to be larviciding is over an acre. Areas under an acre may pose a public health nuisance, and larviciding still can be completed. All exclusions go into effect 14 days from the date the request is received. The exclusion can be filed on our website by residents. All exclusion requests start on January 1st and expire on December 31st of the calendar year in which it was made. The exclusion request may be waived in a public health emergency by the governor or by the state public health department. We receive the property exclusions from MDAR, and then we receive the exclusion. The parcel goes into our GIS mapping system, and technicians automatically receive a systems warning when approaching the excluded property boundaries. So many people ask us what we do for the rest of the year when we're not treating mosquitoes. We do control mosquitoes year-round, and most of our wetland, tire, and ditch maintenance projects are completed through the winter. There's a kind of a seasonal breakdown of what we conduct for our operational activities through the rest of the year, so we're busy all year. And that's it. And that's actually a Culex female laying eggs in a gravid pan. So I didn't have the motor hooked up to collect her, but they land in the pan and they lay those eggs. The gravid trap that we use collects that mosquito before she actually lays those eggs. So, and that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, I have
Sorry
several
if it
questions.
was lengthy, but that's kind of,
No, it was informative. Several questions. Should there be a concern with West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis this time of the year, especially with all the rain?
if we have a season where we're seeing it, you can still have human transmission all the way up till the first hard frost. So even though we
Oh.
don't collect it, and
Oh,
even though we, so we collect the mosquitoes and we hope we get enough to send in. This year was so dry, we really didn't have a lot of mosquitoes to send in for testing. But the rest of the state had high West Nile virus and a lot of mosquitoes. So anytime we see, well, any time of year, any year, whether it's dry or wet, the risk of mosquito-borne disease transmission is possible to humans until the first hard frost.
were there any fatalities this year in Massachusetts?
No, not that I know of
illness?
yet.
Really? That's good.
Yeah, and we didn't see a lot of, we didn't see any triple E yet. Doesn't mean it's not out there, but this was primarily a West Nile virus year because of the dry and the heat. So during a moist, wet, a wet year, you'll see more Eastern equine encephalitis.
And I know we've had, correct me if I'm mistaken, Brian, we've had barrier treatment this year.
Annually. Yep, we do that every year, typically in the middle of August, prior to fall sports and kids going back to schools. So we do all the parks, playgrounds, schools, fields, things like that. Just as a preventative, precautionary measure, because this time of year, kids are out playing sports after school, all over town, so.
Yeah, and one of our checklist items was to do these barrier treatments prior to school starting, so it makes notifications easier.
Yep.
And then they're already done, and we can have them scheduled so that we can, handle all our subscribing communities and get all the barriers done without having, like say we did have a West Nile event.
Yep.
Having to schedule all this stuff and then having an emergency event kind of throws the barriers off. So one of our items on our checklist was to have these scheduled early enough. And we do have a list of all the areas that were treated it was done on 8/15. So we did all the barrier treatments.
Other questions?
And I could do a quick summary, like really quick.
Absolutely.
All right, so we had, in North Andover, we had 17 inspected mosquito larval habitats. We have a little book with all the sites, and they're regular. So every year we check these same sites, and most of them are spring or problematic areas where we've had larvae before. So there's about 17 of them. We did receive 5 resident requests for property inspections, which we handled, and we did have 3 pesticide exclusions, which are people that exclude their property from any pesticides that we're going to apply. We completed larviciding of 4,000 catch basins on 7/28, and we did this barrier treatment. So we did send in 12 batches of mosquitoes to the public health lab for testing. All the batches were negative for both West Nile and Triple E, and next week is our last week of surveillance. The district remains, this is answer the questions about weather. The district remains in an extreme critical drought advisory D3, so it's still there, it hasn't changed yet, haven't gotten the update for this week. Total mosquito collections decreased by 58% from last year, so they were cut in half based on the drought. If this drought continues, if they don't change it, because even though we're receiving a lot of rain right now, a lot of it still has to get soaked up, it runs off, and it evaporates. So we're really, the water levels are so low that it's going to take a while for even this kind of rain to notice any effect on groundwater supply. So what we're seeing, if it continues, it's negatively impacting our overwintering populations of Culicida melanura for Triple E and perturbans, which are a cattail mosquito that can transmit disease to humans. So our crips and cattail swamps are really, really low. Like we have a couple near where our office is, and we've never seen them bone dry. And they're, in the 8 years I've been there, it's dry, and I've never seen that. So even with this rain, we haven't had that replenish. So our melanura populations for Triple E, even though they increased a little from last year, because we did have some snow melt and we had a lot of precipitation last fall, that did kind of add to replenishing from the last drought we had a couple of years ago. We had a slight increase in male populations by about 130%, but in the whole course of our 5-year average, they're down 65%, and they're down 67% from our 10-year average. So we're watching them very closely to see when we might have another triple E event, because even though they're on a cyclical type 8-year, it's shortening just because of the weather that we're getting. Whether it's droughts, like we get a couple of years of drought, then we get like 3 years of rain. So we're watching that very carefully. That's it.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having
Once
me.
again,
Thank
everybody's
you.
here, we
Thank
have
you.
you back.
Yeah.
And I like the new presentation, very nice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was meant. We have that kind of video narrated and everything else, but I have to cut it short on a certain like for this. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I definitely appreciate you coming out on Thursday night. We'll definitely have you back again next year, as always.
Yes, thank you.
I look forward to working with you this winter and coming spring.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Take care.
Jeez, I didn't realize the screen. I thought I had accidental adjustment or something here.
Get the screen.
Okay, tonight is a vote by the Board of Health on the animal regulations. We have discussed the animal regulations for many months. They have continued to be updated. And for that vote, I need a motion on a hearing. We're going to go from a regular meeting to a hearing on the animal regulations. So,
Motion to open a public hearing, Pat?
You keep on talking to me. Make a motion to open the public hearing.
is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opened. Who wants to talk? You want to talk about the animal
I'll
regulations?
talk a little bit
Steve?
now. Okay, so as you guys know, this has been before you before. We've been through a couple different drafts. I did update it after the last meeting, so there's no public hearing required for anybody proposing a new type of animal permit, whether it's livestock or something, depending on the size of it. If it's going to be something bigger than a few animals, then the health department, we can ask them to have a public hearing, notify their butters, just because somebody's going to bring in a big operation, you want to let your neighbors know. It's not kind of open up a pig farm next to them and not have them have any idea. So revise that. This is basically just to keep up with all the animals we do permit in town. Horses, cattle, sheep, chickens, chicken coops, barns, and finally have a set of regulations to go along with our animal permit. So I did the corrections after the last meeting, and they're before you now to vote on as a final draft and final regulation, and you have a signature sheet if you do approve them.
Do we have to close the meeting before?
We
before
discussion, and then you
Okay,
close the
okay.
public hearing, and then you vote on the
Okay.
regulations. So
Again, we've gone
discuss-
over this a number of times. I
Yep.
certainly don't have anything further to say. Perhaps our new members
Gen A,
do.
Gen B, any?
But it's all inclusive, it's very good. And by the way, this updated regulation and all other regulations with and through our town, Board of Health, Department of Health are available through our town, on our town website. Just go to the Department of Health, I believe, and you can see all
Call
that.
us, and we'll email you.
This is different than farms. You have to, for farms, that's a completely different.
That's Mass Department of Agriculture, yes.
Okay.
Yep. This is just for homeowners that have,
I feel like wanting to have chickens.
or if you have stable and you have horses.
Okay.
Then you have a barn, you have horses, you get an animal permit. We do barn inspections through the animal control officer, who is our animal inspector, appointed by the board. And we have a barn book we have to submit to Department of Agriculture every year that is filled out by the ACO. And small operations, not large registered farms.
At that, if there is not any further discussion,
Why
You-
don't have Michelle do it this time?
Well, he's gotta
We
close
need
it
a motion,
first.
Patrick.
I know it's. I'll make a motion to close the discussion for the meeting, for the,
To close the hearing.
to close the hearing. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion to approve the regulations as
You have
written.
to
Good.
second the motion and approve it. And then-
Okay, second, the closing of the meeting.
Correct.
And
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Okay. Motion approved. Good work. Very good work on these regulations. No, you
I would
you
say
have your
that.
fingerprints on that too, Steve. I know that. I know that. Okay. Yeah, we have to sign that now.
Now you can vote to approve the regulations as drafted.
Okay, now getting back to the regular meeting.
No, you have to
We have to
approve
approve the, we
regulations.
never did.
You have to vote to approve the regulations.
Oh, my mistake, excuse me. We'll need to vote to approve the regulations.
make a motion to approve the regulations.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
It's a good thing I didn't sign it before. we-
There you go.
Approved.
Then you can sign them and we can move on.
Good enough. Communications announcement and discussions, COVID-19 update. I have looked at the stats, they look pretty good, but perhaps you can provide some more detailed information, Brian.
You know what? I gave you the numbers from last week. I've been working on these starting today. Some of the data doesn't come out until 5 o'clock. So
Oh.
as of tonight, going through our labs and our numbers, we're at 25 active cases in town. Last week, Thursday, we were at 24. We've been kind of bubbling along this low number for a long time. Obviously, there's a lot of people taking home tests that don't always get accounted for. They don't let us know. These are only the official PCR tests done that are sent to labs through doctor's offices or the Stop the Spread testing sites. But you can see since back in June, we've been bubbling along this number up and down for the last several months. Will we see an uptick now the kids are back in school? Possibly. But as of now, we've been in school for a couple weeks. Hasn't seen any type of a jump yet. Will that happen? Remains to be seen. Our numbers are still looking good though, just in general. We do have test kits available in the health department to give out to anybody who wants them. I think they're pretty readily available anywhere at this point, which is good. So testing and monitoring is one way to keep our eye on it, and I don't have any issues. Hospitalizations from the numbers that I look at have been low. I think Patrick can probably talk more about that being in a hospital setting on a regular basis. Our overall testing numbers have been consistent for the last several months. They've been going down since last year, where we were peaking at over 5,000 tests per 2 weeks. Now we're down to about 700. So we're still out there testing, and people are still getting tested. Our incident rates are still maintaining a low number. Our percent positivity is still around 6. So it's higher than we'd want it to be, but it's still relatively low compared to what it used to be during some of the peaks. So monitoring and just moving along. And we are going to be offering vaccinations. Carolyn has an update on that. There's a sheet in your packet regarding some of the clinics we have coming up. And I will pass this off to her to talk about clinics.
This is, excuse me, this will be the 5th vaccination for coronavirus.
Depending on your age, I believe,
Well, I maxed out on.
somewhere,
numbers, so,
yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere around there in terms
So
of
this would be. the-
primary series and then
Fifth.
your boosters spaced out. You're at 5?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I like it.
You get a gold star.
Gonna need a few cards.
Yeah, seriously.
We are, as a town, we are doing very well in terms of vaccination rates and boosters. 50% of our residents have received their first booster and 12% have received their second booster. I don't think they're tracking third boosters at this point yet, but we have a very good vaccination rate, which is nice to see, and helping keeping people out of the hospital, from what I hear, and keeping people from anything worse.
What do you see in the hospital, Patrick?
It's all incidental positive tests, because they test every inpatient that is admitted to the hospital, it's all incidental positives. Very few are being admitted because of COVID. They're being admitted with COVID.
So the incidental across the entire state as of last week, there was 591 patients with incidental and 182 across Massachusetts that were actually hospitalized primarily due to COVID. So those numbers are completely different. So the capacity is there, which was what the main concern was when the pandemic first hit, was having enough beds, ventilators, medical staff, and treatment.
Now we just have a medical staff problem.
This packet of information from our town weekly is actually pretty good. It's quite telling. Looking at the North Andover deaths by age, 0 to 9, none. 10 to 19, none. 20 to 29, none. 30 to 39, none. 40 to 49, 2. 50 to 59, 2. And then it really ratchets up. 60 to 69, 8. 70 to 79, 25. 80 to 89, 25. And 90 plus 30 seconds. So I look at this, and one of the things I say is, well, why are we even vaccinating kids? But I mean, the deaths aren't until the latter part of life, but it is what it is. Have any comments on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why, a big reason why we vaccinate kids is because then you're decreasing the transmission rate to the more vulnerable population. I mean, vaccines are safe, they're effective. Actually, my daughter is going to get her third Pfizer, she's 3.5, so she'll get her third Pfizer shot next month. But the biggest thing is, I mean, number one, when you have a safe and effective vaccine available to you, do you really want to be the parent that becomes the number one on that list? Number one. But number two, more commonly, to decrease the rate of transmission to the more vulnerable population. Because kids are petri dishes.
Spoken like a parent.
Oh yeah, I'm getting over the go back to school cold right now.
I think everybody is.
Yep.
Alan,
yes,
I'm
so-
sorry to interrupt. If you have anything further to say about what's happening and what is offered by our town?
We are offering flu clinics. We have several. We have 2 big flu clinics over the Senior Center for 19 and over on September 28th and October 31st. And then we're going to be having our big family flu clinic at the high school on October 25th. We are working with Greater Lawrence to try to get a bivalent COVID booster clinic, which is 12 plus with Pfizer and 18 plus with Moderna. You are eligible to get the bivalent booster as long as you are 2 months from your last dose, whether it be making that your 5th dose or making that your 3rd dose. As long as you have, as long as you have your primary series, you're eligible to get a booster as long as it's 2 months out. Oh, and we will be offering both high-dose flu and regular flu.
And we had a date picked out with the Greater Lawrence Family Health Center to do the bivalent boosters, but we have to rearrange because of space. The space that was promised us wasn't available after we booked them. So we're working on a new date.
Do you still have coronavirus vaccine shots?
So the monovalent is no longer able to be used as a booster. So the monovalent is only able to be used as your primary series. So to get a booster, it has to be one of the bivalent ones. I do have limited doses of bivalent, but we are trying to have a big clinic where people who do choose to get a bivalent booster will be able to get one.
Now, I know in the past that I think each vial is good for like the 10 shots or whatever. I don't know if it's the same right
So
now.
the dosage for bivalent is no longer going to be 0.25 milligrams. It's actually 0.5 this time. So you get a little more there's going to be 2 strands of the mRNA, so it'll cover you for the B4, B5, and the Omicron. So that'll cover you kind of for more strands of the coronavirus. So that's what the bivalent would be. It kind of, you know, tries to cover both variants of COVID.
And when you get a shot, what remains? Does it have to be disposed?
So my vaccine is frozen, so I'll thaw it out when I get, you know, a clinic or I get the interest in it. So I can hold it up right now for like a year-ish, almost a year.
Oh.
But once a vial is open, I only have 12 hours from once the vial is open and once it's used.
12 hours and that's it.
Yes.
It used to be 6. Running around with 1 dose left. Anyone want a shot? You did that numerous times at the end of the clinic. Yes, we are working on doing the bivalent clinics. We do have Moderna right now, so it's what, 18 plus? For
18
what
plus.
you have, yeah. So the Pfizer is the 12 plus, is 12 plus, and the bivalent is gonna be 12 plus, because it's Pfizer.
Pfizer bivalent is going to
Yeah.
be 12 plus for boosters.
Yeah, so all in all, things have definitely slowed down a lot in terms of COVID. It's still there, still bubbling under the surface. Luckily, the hospitals aren't having issues with too many patients, just not enough staff.
Oh, we
Which
got
I
a
guess-
lot of patients. Yeah,
Not for COVID, though.
not for COVID.
Right. So we're gonna keep monitoring it. I wanna see what happens between now and obviously the fall season as people start to move back inside. It's getting obviously colder out. And hopefully it's not like it was last winter.
I think a lot of the literature I'm seeing is that a lot of the predictions are it's not gonna necessarily be a bad
Good.
winter or fall.
I've heard that for COVID. I've also heard that flu's gonna
Flu, yeah, you're right. I'll rephrase that for COVID.
Okay, all right.
For flu, yeah, I think the optimal time to get your flu vaccine, I think it's right around that first night of September 28th. Usually it's recommended end September into October to get your flu shot, just because it takes enough time, a certain amount of time to build up your immunity, which will then bring us to the scheduled peak time for flu, which usually is like November to April is usually our typical time.
Now, these flu shots, I think the efficacy, what is like 20% or 40%?
No,
It
it
ranges.
varies
More than
per
that now,
year.
or-
Yeah.
It varies per year. What they're basically doing is they're trying to, and this is what ultimately is gonna happen with COVID, is they're gonna end up trying to predict what the dominant strains are going to be that year for the flu, and it's certain degree scientific.
So the symptoms are pretty much the same, though, between the flu and the
And-
coronavirus?
Yeah, I would say more so now with Omicron, yes. With Delta and the other previous variants, there was much more of a higher respiratory component, and that's what was leading to death. But with Omicron, it's more people just complain of general flu-like symptoms, pretty bad flu-like symptoms, but less of a respiratory component.
So when in doubt, just take a test
Yeah,
kit.
yep.
Good. Any other comments on that? Before we adjourn, a status on the grants that we had.
Oh, okay.
You commented several months ago, and just give us an update
Oh,
on
you
this.
sent us an email. I don't know if we,
Yes.
any of us responded.
Michelle did.
I tried to actually volunteer my wife.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Oh,
but
okay. She wouldn't do it?
She couldn't.
Okay.
Volunteered your wife.
For the
One of the positions. One of the resident
Oh.
positions,
resident
yes.
position, so.
Yes. We had our first orientation kickoff meeting for the Community Health Assessment Grant with members from North Andover and Andover and HRIA, which is Health Resources in Action, who's facilitating and developing the Community health assessment and community health improvement plans. So we had our first meeting actually yesterday. It was 2 hours. It was a long, very informative, very educational meeting. We got a lot of input from some of the people that we brought in to volunteer. Michelle's going to watch the recap of that when she has a chance. And it's starting off strong. So,
And for those that are listening that may not be familiar, this is a brief review of what this is all about.
this is a grant that we got that we are now facilitating a community health assessment, which is an in-depth look at all the data for health outcomes in North Andover and Andover, as well as community input. We will be having community surveys and community focus groups over the course of the next 10 months that will help us formulate a improvement plan, health improvement plan moving forward that will, it's essentially like a master plan for the health department. Things that we should focus on over the next 5 years. These are the hot topics. These are what we're seeing. This is what the data indicates. This is what the people want. This is what we're going to focus our attention and health programming on over X number of years. Might even go beyond 5 years. But we started the process. We had our first kickoff meeting.
And other grants, grant?
The other grant, our orientation for that, that's a state public health excellent grant. We are getting money, $300,000 over the next 3 years.
How much you say?
300?
The town is?
Yes. It is a regional public health grant that North Andover is hosting. So it's, I think, 5 communities involved. We will be hiring regional staff to help augment capacity issues in some of the towns, whether it's public health nursing. Some towns that are involved in the grant don't have a public health nurse or have one for 6 hours a week where they need a lot more. So regional inspectors to do things like regional mobile food inspections or things along those lines. Program coordinator and nursing. So it's $300,000 each year for 3 years. So it's almost $900,000. And we partnered up with, it is Reading, North Reading, Linfield, Andover, and Haverhill, the communities involved. So we are the host community. I will be getting that up and running in November, and we'll go from there.
What? Very good.
So,
Other comments, questions? Maybe we need a motion. Maybe someone else can make a motion right now.
Keep looking.
I just feel like aggravating. He's putting this almost in front of me, distracting from the
I
meeting.
know, I'm putting it right now.
Yeah, so it's payback for distracting me.
So I'll make a motion to end the meeting. Right? Is that what you're
Do we have a second?
Second.
There we go.
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
saying?
Meeting's ended.